I never would have considered that this would be healthy. I just wouldn't have. And yet here we are. I'm really still in shock. I mean, like, no one is more surprised than me. I'm so excited to talk to you. It's just me. It is, well, the day that you're watching this is January 1st. The start of World Carnivore Month. This is my third. So if you're new here, I'm Allie. I've been following a carnivore diet for almost 2 years. In 2 more weeks, it will be 2 years. So I did start the carnivore diet in January of 2023. And what I would like to go over are the incredible, amazing benefits. And I like to share what I experienced and what I learned along the way, so it could help. Maybe it will help you. And I hope so. The first thing I want to tell you is, this was something like a resolution. I wanted to lose weight and I wanted to start a diet in January of 2023. In doing that, what happened was I ate something and I realized it made me sick. I had like a reaction to something I had eaten. It was the only time that I had ever considered, what I ate caused the reaction. Because of that, I completely changed my life, kind of accidentally. I never considered, when I started the carnivore diet, it was just, to get my inflammation to calm down, to settle down because of this reaction. I never dreamed that 2 years later, I would still be eating the carnivore diet. I no longer eat vegetables, fruits, grains, seeds, nothing. I eat the carnivore diet. And I will tell you what the carnivore diet is and how I do it. And it's a spectrum. You can do different things. You can do it the way you want to do it, because the best advice, just from one lady on the internet to you, whoever you are on the other side of that screen, I'm just telling you, sharing my experience. But you need to figure out what works for you. This is what works for me. Beef, butter, bacon, eggs, salt, coffee. Yes, I drink coffee. I have not had any trouble with coffee. I've not ever eliminated it. I drink water, sparkling water, any kind of meat. I don't really eat a lot of chicken or, any of those meat. I eat primarily beef. I do eat fish. I eat tuna. This is the tuna I eat. It's safe catch. It's like a low mercury. It's in water. I have troubles with any kind of oil, so I stick with in water for my canned fish. I do eat sardines occasionally. Again, safe catch. And these are skinless, boneless. I prefer those. I have a background with autoimmune illness and chronic illness. And so I still have some, sensitivities. We're talking any kind of meat, any kind of animal. If it's on the, if it crawls, swims, or flies, you can have it. What you want to stick to with your fats: butter, lard, which is pig fat. I didn't even know any of these things when I started. I'm a very suburban type person, so I didn't know a lot of this stuff. I didn't pay attention and think about where my food came from or food quality or that kind of thing. So butter, lard, beef tallow. And I do rub beef tallow on my face as my moisturizer. Dairy. Yes, dairy is allowed. You have to figure out what works for you. I have done dairy. I'm not doing dairy right now. So it's just kind of what you want. I drink coffee. I put salt in it. I put butter in it. And I actually do put Equip Prime Protein unflavored in my coffee. It is a beef isolate. I do not do natural flavors. I do not do, stevia or anything like that. Some people can tolerate it. You kind of have to play with it. But that is allowed. That is allowed. Even on carnivore, you can have, well, you're an adult, so you can have anything. But I choose to stick to beef, butter, bacon, eggs. And I'll show you inside my fridge. It's very barren. It is time for a big box store haul. Salt. So I did I got a quality salt. This is real salt. It's Redmond's real salt.
It's bare. So that is some lard that I got from my friend Sarah. She's a farmer. We eat a lot of eggs. We put some money towards the eggs. The dairy is for the rest of the family. It's really for my kids. Dale's not really on dairy. He does better when he's not on dairy. This was some kind of roast that we got from our half cow. I'll tell you that. This is 2 pounds of ground beef, butter drawer, cheese drawer. Now, this is salmon. This is mahi-mahi. My kids will eat this. That's our ground beef. What we have left, same. That is a bougie pork belly, but I wanted to support local. We don't eat much chicken, but we have it on hand. Pork belly from like Costco. One of the best things you can get, especially on a budget. Now these are Members Mark, so that's Sam's Club. And I like these beef patties a lot.
Any kind of meat, you want fat, meat. Fiber is not essential. Carbohydrates are not essential. I haven't had vegetables in 2 years. I haven't had sugar in 2 years. You know, carbohydrates and fiber are not essential. One tip I want to tell you about the carnivore diet is if you're going to buy something that's in a package, you do need to read the ingredients. So for instance, like the Safe Catch sardines, you know, these are skinless, boneless, wild sardines in water. So you could check it. But if they had any kind of flavoring, I don't know what kind of flavoring they'd have, but I would need to see what was in it specifically. Now, pork rinds, you can have pork rinds, pork cracklings, chicharrones. I don't know if I said that right. So like this brand is a very good brand. They're very clean, but you do have to check, especially on pork rinds. You do need to check because this comes in a bag. So the ingredients say fried pork skin, sea salt, fried in rendered pork fat. That matters because if you go and just get, some flavored pork rinds, certainly you need to check to see what your ingredients are. You need to know. They will put different things in there. They will put some junky ingredients in there. So keep that in mind. Now I'm going to tell you about what I experienced and when I experienced it and how quickly. That's one of the reasons I'm so glad that I documented this. I started putting out content in like May of 2023. And thank goodness I did because, it's like I said, it's been almost 2 years and you do kind of forget some of the things, some of the experiences. So hang on, I'll be right back. The cat is meowing. I have a background in autoimmune disorders and chronic illness. So when I heard the story of Michaela Peterson talking about how she only eats meat and how she got to that point and what her background was, I was like, well, I'm going to try this. I related to that, just dealing with those chronic illnesses, and like nothing worked. I tried all of the things to, that would work for. And because of that reaction, I was desperate. I was scared. My inflammation in my eye was coming back. I have no hearing in my left ear because of Meniere's disease that I had treated 10 years ago. All of these things. So I thought, well, I'm going to do this. I was desperate. Therefore, I was willing to try some restrictive, crazy sounding, wacky sounding thing because I knew it would be weeks before I could get into a doctor to see me. And it was just going to be, the same situation that I've been in over and over. The first benefit I noticed very quickly was my inflammation started to lower and some of the skin sensory issues I was dealing with started to reduce. For instance, this sounds so weird, but I would have this skin crawling and itching feeling all the time. Like, just all the time. When I would brush out my hair 2 years ago, I had long dark hair and I would brush it when it was wet and I'd brush it out. my legs from my knees to my ankles would itch so intensely that I'd have to rub them. And it, like I said, it was inside. That quickly went away. I flushed out some inflammation within the first 2 weeks. I was also drinking before I started, this elimination diet. I was drinking alcohol, a lot of wine, every day, every night. And I realized around day 4 or 5 that my urge to drink and numb, was gone. Like, that is incredible. I'd spent the last 12, 15 years, really always looking forward to food and wine. To be honest, just to be really upfront, it was a significant part of my life. And that urge, I hadn't even thought about alcohol, wine within the first 3 to 4 days. That was shocking. I decided to stick with it for 90 days. And at 90 days, I was down 16 pounds and 6 inches overall. I have never lost 16 pounds, I don't think, in my whole life. I'd been chronically dieting my entire adult life, but really, really trying yo-yo dieting and calorie restriction diets for 10 years, at least 10 years. Because I had started to struggle with weight gain when I turned 40, I had a major surgery in 2014, 10 years ago, and I was 38 when I had that surgery, and my whole life changed because of the surgery. It just changed our lives. Therefore, I gained a lot of weight, and I struggled with my mental health, and I was a stay-at-home mom, and it was a lot. So I had been chronically dieting for 10 years leading up to, starting the carnivore diet. So for me to have lost 16 pounds, I was astonished. And I started realizing, like, all of this, information about what is healthy and how do you improve your health. A lot of it is we were just led to believe, and it's not actually that healthy. But I started to, ask questions. Well, what about my heart, and what about my blood pressure, which I'd never had elevated blood pressure. But what about, why do I have all of these autoimmune issues? I have thyroid issues. I also, when I started, I was 47, so I was dealing with some perimenopause, and I had struggled with, inflammation my entire adult life. I went back in my records because I used to go to the doctor all the time and be sick all the time. And I would always have weird things happen. So in 2019, I had inflammation in my eye. It's called uveitis, and it's miserable. And that's really what I felt coming back when I had a reaction to food, right after Christmas in 2023, in the beginning of January of 2023. And I'm already deaf in this ear. I can't lose any more senses because I was so scared that it was coming back. I started looking into my medical records. I've worked in medical record, I have a background in medical records. And so and lab work, I worked in a lab when I was a young person. So I went in and looked because I knew I'd had I'm not exaggerating, 20 lab tests run at my initial onset of uveitis, which is, like I said, that was 2019. And that episode, that flare, was the worst one. I've had 2 or 3 more, but it was the worst. And it lasted 8 weeks. And for 6 of those weeks, I was under constant supervision with a specialist, and my vision was impaired considerably for those 6 weeks. So that's not something I ever want to experience again. So I'm going through all of these records, all kinds. And, I tested negative for everything. They didn't say I didn't show up for Lyme or lupus or AS or any of the things that, they associate with uveitis, except they ran a hemoglobin A1C, which is a blood sugar average for 3 months. And in 2019, it was 6. That's pre-diabetic. That's pre-diabetes. It's not funny, actually. And I thought, well, that's interesting because uveitis is directly linked to prediabetes and diabetes. The specialists had asked me, do you have, are you diabetic? No doctor had ever told me that. And I'd probably had 1 or 2 other A1Cs done because I was over 40 and usually around 40, and I was 50 pounds overweight. It's most likely that I was having some blood sugar management problems. When I did finally look back in my records and start, what kind of other improvements have I experienced? I was like, oh, well, I've reversed my prediabetes. And I got lab work done, all kinds of lab work done in May of 2023. And all of my lab work was optimum, is it within the great range, like the healthiest I've ever been. Other very significant benefit that I noticed, I didn't realize that it had gotten so much better until 2 months into eating just beef, butter, bacon, eggs. And that was my anxiety. I had incredibly high anxiety that was affecting my life, and I wouldn't do social things. I didn't ever want to go anywhere. I didn't want people, I felt like people were always looking at me and very critical of me. Nobody was. I had intrusive thoughts. I could hardly ride in a car. If I was going to drive, I would, plan out the route, the safest route. And I was plagued with intrusive thoughts, especially at night, racing thoughts when everyone else is asleep. And well, what if a tree falls on our house? That was a legit concern. We have really large tree, really tall trees in the backyard. Or what if this happens? Or what if this happens? And a lot of them were outrageous and, just terrible intrusive thoughts. And in March of 2023, after exactly 2 months of the carnivore diet, I noticed that had lessened considerably, to the point that I was like, Dale, did you realize that, I was not so anxious in the car? And he was like, you're right. Substantial. My sleep improved. I always had trouble falling asleep because, I was plagued by these thoughts, and I would wake up quite a few times a night, and I never was getting a lot of rest. And I always woke up and wanted to stay in bed and hit snooze, that kind of thing. And that improved. And now my sleep is fantastic. And, now I'm 49 and I sleep like a baby all through the night. I have no problems falling asleep. And I wake up at dawn just naturally. I don't ever have to use an alarm. Watch me oversleep sometime. I don't use an alarm. I wake up when the sun comes up and I get, it's fantastic. My hormones leveled out and they got a lot better. I do have chronic thyroid illness that I do have to always take a supplement for the rest of my life. That has leveled out. So my energy has really improved. I've always been kind of before this, I was always kind of a low energy person. And now I want to do things. I have the energy to do that. I don't have an afternoon slump. I have sustained energy throughout the day. My brain fog is gone. I can think again. I can make tough decisions if I have to. I'm not so emotional. I don't have hanger. I don't get really hangry because I don't have the blood sugar spikes, that kind of thing. It turns out, losing weight was important to me, but it became less important when I realized that this is how I'm supposed to feel as as a middle-aged person. I'm supposed to feel good. I'm not supposed to feel like I'm 90 when I'm, not even 50. So the brain fog went away, and I'm very glad for that. I don't have blood sugar spikes. I feel great most of the time. And I'm able to cope with challenges that, just are a part of life much better, and I'm much happier. So the weight loss, I've lost 50 pounds. I lost 35 pounds in the first 12 months of doing carnivore, and then I lost another 15 pounds in 2024. And I've maintained it. And it's incredible. It's been the most incredible experience. I may never have gotten, these results if I wasn't willing to try something that's so outside the mainstream. And, I'm so glad I did. And I like to share. And so I hope this information is relevant to you, and I hope it encourages you to give this a shot. You never know what could happen. I would have never guessed that my life could improve and I could feel this good. I hadn't felt this good since I was, I don't know, maybe ever, truly. My inflammation is gone, and it's been amazing. So I hope this video finds you and you're going to give it a shot. I would love to hear from you, some feedback. If you have questions, leave me a comment. And thanks for watching.